With more than 15 years of equine sports medicine and rehab experience, the visionary and founder of Performance Equine Vet Services, an equine performance innovative center. Your host, veterinarian Alberto Rulon, is here to keep you informed on all things sports medicine, rehabilitation, and equine business. This is A Stride Above.
Talk to me. I want you to talk to me about you from birth until now. How did that brand new baby develop and became the great Amanda?
Everyone grab their popcorn and maybe a few drinks because it's gonna be a while. No,
Just
but
summarize it for me in 18 minutes.
18 specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a little bit about me. I was born in South Florida and raised in South Florida by two amazing parents.
The best
parents. And I will get to how they really impacted me to where I am today specifically. But I was born beautiful, healthy. There's a few complications during birth. Ended up having to do a C-section. Nothing crazy. I came out, all was well. And when I was about 2, I think it was about 1, when I started to try and walk, they noticed that I kept walking on my toes and I didn't have much balance. So they're like, okay, a lot of kids are twinkle toes and you see them running around with that. And then my mom started to get a little bit concerned. She's like, she's not progressing with walking as quickly as other people are or other kids are. So they took me in, they, ran a few tests and did a few different things and realized that I had cerebral palsy, which is a lot of people call CP, and I'll refer to it as CP. And they realized that I had CP. So in my case, I have like one of the most mild cases of it possible.
Okay.
I'm very, very blessed that it's very rare to have it only really affect one part of my body. And it's really only my legs and my hips. It has caused a few little things in my back, but nothing that can't be overcome. So they started going through that treatment plan of someone with cerebral palsy with shortened Achilles, because that's what they felt it was. And that's why I was walking on my toes, because there's a lot of kids that walk on their toes, but like my heel never went down. Like this was the only position. So with that, they started doing a lot of different therapies, and the amount of physical therapists that I've been to, and braces, which I don't know if you've seen orthopedic braces. They're not very subtle and they're not very cute. And when you are a small child in the early years of development, and kids are not always the nicest, that was kind of the beginning of what I think kind of stemmed from my wanting to not stand out, because I was always the kid that did stand out because I had these big old braces on both of my legs. I was always falling, or I was always having to be pulled out of class to do therapies and things like that. And I always stood out, and I hated it. I hated it. And I was like, I don't want to stand out. I want to be normal. I want to be like everyone else. So the braces ended up not being enough to really correct the situation. So in 4th grade, fast forward, during that whole time, we were going back and forth, braces, therapies, this, that, another. And we ended up doing surgery and lengthening my Achilles, both of my legs. And I thought the braces were not subtle, cast on both of your legs up to your knees, also not subtle. And I was kind of like a baby giraffe trying to figure out how to walk with cast in a new position. And growing up in South Florida, you have a lot of stairs in your house, and there's a lot to overcome, especially being in 4th grade. I mean, you're still a kid. And with all of that, got out of the cast, again, physical therapy. So now I can walk flat-footed, but now I have the tightness in my hamstrings, which causes it harder to kick out. So there's a lot of just different things that were going to be difficult. And bless my mom and dad, and I used to resent her for it. And now, being older, hindsight's always 20/20. Looking back, I'm so thankful for the way that my parents handled my entire childhood, because I was never allowed to use it as a disability. Never once was I allowed to use it as a crutch, use it as a way to get out of things, even though I did in middle school. I got out of the mile run for PE because I did not want to run a mile. But my parents never let me, besides obviously the fact that like I had something different on my legs than other kids, I was never able to use it as a crutch. So it was, you're going to do all the same things that all the other kids do. It might be harder for you. It might take you longer to do it, but you're going to do it. And I think that lesson is what made me who I am today, because I've held that and have learned so much just from that.
That's just so amazing. So amazing. Thank you for sharing that. We see so many parents that just try to, quote unquote, protect their kids from I'm not sure what, and don't push them to the limits, or at least don't push them anything at all.
Yeah.
And we can see, and it's amazing how your parents did not fall for that, and they were so on point on how they did it. That is just an amazing thing that you are obviously going to be so grateful for that the rest of your life and more.
Absolutely.
So after that, I obviously cannot relate. So I cannot even imagine that childhood. So after that, your life started becoming a little bit more normal. You kept pushing through, right?
I was pushed through, for sure.
You were pushed through. So you were coached.
Yeah, my mom very much. And again, my mom and dad, I'm daddy's little girl. I'm an only child, and I'm the only female. So my dad and I have a very good relationship. And my mom and she took the brunt of it. And I am so thankful for her to do that, because again, now looking back and being older and kind of understanding more about life in general, I cannot imagine how difficult it was for her to not give in, because she knew what it would do for me in the future. And didn't think I was going to get emotional. That was weird. So that is what really helped me, because I fought her tooth and nail.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mom, because I was so not nice. But I remember, I'll never forget this. So I played softball. I was told that I have to play softball. I have to do something outdoors, have to play a sport, which I 100% agree. Even if you're not good at the sport, participate in it, because learning how to be a team is so, so valuable in so many different ways. So I played softball in middle school, which isn't super competitive. It wasn't really that big. We lived in Key Largo, Florida, so very, very small areas. So there wasn't a lot going on or whatever. I played the community team. I always had to do something. I tried springboard diving. That was fun. Flexibility is not my strong suit, so that didn't last very long. Did gymnastics. I had to do gymnastics, at least try it. I had to at least try something. And the other thing was I had to follow through for that season. I was not allowed to quit. If I said that I was going to start something, I was not allowed to quit unless I physically was injured. You still got to show up. Even if you're stretching in the corner, you still have to show up because you committed to that responsibility. So I did that. And I remember it was, I think, the second or third day of high school. And I was in 9th grade. And of course, now high school is a whole different ball game. Those people are mean. They're scary. I was very, very intimidated. And again, I wanted to be normal. I wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be noticed. I didn't want attention, because I've always had attention. It wasn't always in the way that I wanted it to be. So my mom picked me up from school. She goes, "Oh, hey, I got good news." And I was like, "What? You're on the high school softball team." And I was like, I cried and I cried. And I said, "No, I did the sports. I did it. I'm not doing anything," because I run funny. It's very obvious that when I'm walking, I've gotten a lot better now. There's a lot of things that I do now to make it a lot easier. But I am funny running, and I don't go very quickly. So it's very obvious that that player, there's something right about her. So in high school, no thank you. We're going to traveling teams. We're going to all these other schools. I'm like, I don't like the idea of this. Nothing about this is appealing to me. And she told me, she said, "Nope, you committed to softball. You're going to do something. You have to pick something. You have to pick a sport. So you can pick something." I ended up trying lacrosse as well. My best friend played, and she's very, very good, as well as my cousins. So of course I always wanted to be like them. And I tried it for a while, and the cardio in it was not working out for me. But I loved, the hand-eye coordination. So I was pushed. And if not, I 1000% know I would not be where I am today, because I could easily sit on the couch, say, "Woe's me, life did this to me, whatever it may be." And I think that is with a lot of different scenarios. With me, it was physically. Some people, it's financially. They didn't have parents that were able to help them, and you got, dealt a bad hand, but you can either say the woe's me game and sit back and just say, why did this happen to me? Or, okay, there's a reason this happened to me. I can use it as a resource, a tool to now teach others how I overcome it, or teach other parents. I've actually talked to other parents when I've gone to, I did a dance marathon in college. So much fun.
Awesome.
24-hour dance marathon.
Wow.
You had to be on your feet dancing. And one of the speakers was actually a mom of a son who had cerebral palsy. And it was for the Miracle Network in Central Florida. And this child was part of it. And he had cerebral palsy. And he was, maybe about six, and told his story about how he had cerebral palsy. And his was a lot more severe than mine was. And I took it upon myself to go talk to that mom after he spoke. And I said, hey, I just want you to know, like, what you're doing, I promise you, like, it'll pay off. And getting to talk to her and say, like, I made it, he can make it too. Like, it's possible, because there's not a lot of people out there who want to talk about what they went through or show the struggles that they had. And again, for me, it's physical, but not for everyone. It can be, other scenarios. But giving her that light at the end of the tunnel, we're friends on Facebook now, and she's, touched base with me here and there. That is why, in my opinion, God gave it to me. Wow. Because there's a purpose for me to have this scenario.
That's powerful. That's awesome. And what I see is that there's so many lessons from there that we could probably spend in days defining lessons. But let's go towards your professional. How did that develop from a personal development now into your adulthood? And how does that help you just continue the daily process of getting better every day, improving, and pretty much overcoming any barrier that comes at you? Because obviously, no kidding, you've been overcoming barriers since you were born. And some people, I feel that they have a smooth sailing or relatively smooth sailing, and then all of a sudden they see a little hill, a little mountain, or a little barrier, and then they quit their dreams, they quit their aspirations, or they quit the professional or personal development. So you are the prime example on how barriers can be overcome and then continue. Like, it's not like you stop after high school. You then now continue, and then you recently did a huge investment on your life to even take it to a next level. So what's that mindset? How does that, I want to see what's in your head.
So I would say there's probably three components to this that I can think of kind of off the top of my head right now. One, I'm very competitive. I'm competitive with myself. I'm competitive with others. Two, it sounds silly to some, but I want to be known for, I never want anyone to ever say that something was handed to her. She's where she's at because it was handed to her. Yeah. I am very, very blessed. My parents are very hardworking. My grandparents are very hardworking. I've always been surrounded with very self-motivated people, and that was definitely installed in me to be independent. They didn't just figure things out for me. I had to go try and figure it out myself first, and then they would help me. And that was, I think, huge, because now in the business world, there's a lot of things that you're like, hey, Amanda, I need you to get this done. And I'm like, absolutely. In my head, I'm like, I have never done that before. I have no idea where I'm going to start, but I commit to it. And just like with softball, when I commit to something, I'm going to follow through with it. I'll always be honest, like, hey, this is as far as I got. I did what I could, but I'm always going to follow through with it. And I never want to just be in the same place, because that's just my mindset. My mindset is, I want more. Why not? What stands between me and the person who gets a plane? This is an exaggerated. I don't want a plane yet, but
I like it. I like it. Yeah. I like it. Yes.
But that's the thing, is like, if I told even some people in my family, if I went up to them and said, yeah, I think my 3 to 5 year goal is I'm going to get a plane, they would look at me like I'm absolutely nuts. And a lot of people would, but why not?
Mm-hmm.
What makes me different from the other working person who has learned how to do multiple streams of income, whatever it may be, to be able to get the plane? And I think that's where society, and I've just went to the conference that I did last weekend. It was 10X Ladies, and I found it very, very powerful to be able to surround yourself with people who think like that, who don't think you're crazy, that look at you like you have four heads when you have big aspirations. And when you are in a society surrounding yourself with people who want you to think this big, like get a job, work your 9 to 5, and then go home. And something that my husband and I had this conversation, and it's correlates very well. He's like, there's two types of people in this world: people that live to work and people that work to live. And I'm not saying one is superior to the other. They're completely different mindsets, and that's totally fine to have that mindset. But I am very much I am going to live to work. I love to work. I love to overcome challenges. And why not have that passion in something that you're going to get paid to do?
That's right. So, and that's so many people talk about that and how important passion is to happiness, and how it can actually help people find happiness. Because I see nowadays there's so many options, there's so much noise, and there's so many jobs, and I want to start my business, I want to do this, I want to go work over there, and then you try for a year, you don't commit, and then you don't commit again, and you go somewhere else, and then you don't commit because you want to explore more options, and then now you take your non-committal self and go all around, and 5 years later you're still stuck. But something that you just mentioned that it dawned on me is that you have been committing to goals since ever you can remember. And you just mentioned 10X Lady. Grant talks about this a lot, which is how you have to commit first and figure it out later. But the commitment is something so important, because can you find something better, bigger, and shinier later? Yeah, you can find something better, bigger, and shinier maybe, but you have to commit, because if not, you're always going to be trying to find something better, bigger, and shinier. And if you have passion for what you do, then it's so easy to commit and overcome any kind of barrier. And I congratulate you for that, because that's amazing.
Thank you.
So that brought you to a journey which brought us to Performance Equine, which of course we have talked about it in other episodes. And from there, it's history. You committed, and you went up on our employee maturity level very quickly, and continue climbing without stops. But I noticed that still on top of that, you probably at some point back in the days, I remember talking to you and going over our year, 3 year, and 5 year, you're like, well, I'm where I want to be. Like, I'm good. And that was maybe not even a year ago, maybe 7 months ago. And what if I ask you the same question right now? What is your answer?
Oh, I'm so far behind. So far behind. And it's actually funny that you bring this up. And this is another thing that my husband and I talk a lot about these things, especially when I go to conferences, and him and I discuss what I learned and things like that, and how we can implement it into our marriage and into just our life. And it's interesting because again, very blessed, very thankful. My parents have helped me a lot of the way. But again, that's what also motivates me, is like, I have to show that I'm the hardest worker. On my tombstone, it is going to say, damn, that was a hard worker and she helped people. That's all I needed to say, because
Awesome.
I want to know, like, I want to make my stance because of the impact that I've had. And with that, I forgot where I was going to go with that. Hold on. Rewinding.
Tombstone.
Before the tombstone.
Hard worker.
Helping people.
Lead. Belief lead.
Oh, that's what it was. So we were talking about how now my mindset's changed. So I was very lucky with everything that I've gotten. And then I, in my brain, said, okay, I'm going to grow up. This is since I was a kid. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to have a house and I'm going to get married and I'm good.
The American dream.
The American dream. That's what what was embedded in me of that is, you've made it. When you have those things, you've made it.
And you got it after 1 year.
Well, then I was like, okay, so now I'm 28. I was 27 at the time that you and I were having this conversation. I'd been with Performance Equine for a year. I went from customer care rep all the way to director of administration. I'm now able to afford the mortgage. I got married and I'm like, okay, cool. No one ever talks about what do you do after that.
Wow.
So I didn't know that there was more after that. I had no idea. I thought I was like, yeah, we're good. Rinse and repeat every day. Go to work. You get your job, you do the things, you go home. I didn't know that there was more. And then I started surrounding myself with people like you, with a lot of the 10X community and Grant Cardone and stuff like that. And all these people are like, oh, yeah, we're just at we're just now starting. And I'm like, whoa, there's more places to go. We can go places. There's more challenges that we can overcome. This is crazy. So that's where starting to surround myself with other motivated people to do the things that I wanted to be able to do, or at least just start in the path. I still don't know where I'm at. My end goal is. Maybe I will get a plane. Who knows? But I want another side by side. There's little things that I want, but the biggest thing I want to do is be known for impacting others and helping others. So if I can be that motivation that you give me to someone else, that then powers me to keep going. Because I remember you told me you woke up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym, and I thought you were off your rocker. And I now wake up at 4:45 to go to the gym.
Yes.
Because I see the value in it, and there's just so many, stigmas of things of okay, people are going to talk no matter what. You wake up too early. Oh, wow, you wake up too early, or you work out too much. But then if you don't wake up early, oh, wow, you sleep in, you're so lazy. Someone's always going to have something to say. So I just used it as surround myself with people who are motivated with the same kind of aspirations of going farther. And if you don't, that's fine. I'm not faulting you for it, but I'm going to surround myself with those people that have that mindset, because you attract people that are similar to you. So that's kind of what has helped me, is surrounding myself with other motivated people to be able to keep going and to want to keep going, because then you're growing and you're having these wins all together and you're building this community of people who are going farther that are winning together.
Awesome.
It's fun.
Awesome. One last thing, and I don't want to take you too long. What would have happened if you would have said, I'm good. I have a salary. I have the salary that I wanted. I have the house. I have reached my goals. I am not going to do anything else, and I'm going to keep doing exactly what I'm doing because I am happy where I am.
Based on my personality and based on me, I can't obviously speak for everyone, but I think that I would have been stuck on a hamster wheel that would have burnt me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think burnout is similar to that work-life balance situation that people have very different perceptions of. And in my case, if I was doing the same thing every single day, that would burn me out quicker than if I were pushing myself to work longer hours and work weekends and things like that, because it's just not, it wasn't what was in me. And some people, I think, are born with it. I think other people develop it, and those that don't want to, that's perfectly fine. But for me, I truly think that I would have been stuck in a position. I wouldn't have been happy long term. Yeah, maybe the first 5 years I would have been good. I am a routine person. I do like routines, but I think I would have been burnt out. I wouldn't have ended up being happy. And because of that, I wouldn't have been a good asset to the company. And then I probably would have gotten fired because I wasn't meeting my metrics, because I'm bored. I'm coming in. I'm not happy. I'm not adding value to the team. So I think at that point I would have then job hopped, and it wouldn't have been a very prosperous life for me.
I agree. I agree 100%. I think that having passion and having goals keep you fighting for more and keep you wanting to achieve more. And that gives so much satisfaction, because every time you overcome a barrier, is such a big satisfaction. There are several satisfactions, I think, in what you talk about. One of them is completing the cycle of action, right? Committing to something and completing it, that's very satisfying.
Absolutely.
And the next satisfaction is overcoming barrier. Every time a barrier is overcome. I mean, this is why we pay football players millions and millions of dollars, right? They have to overcome the other team and score. And because it's so satisfactory to do that and to see people doing that as well. I could not thank you enough for sharing your life experiences with us, and people are going to benefit from this a lot. I know you're going to do great things. We're going to do great things.
Yes, we have some very big things coming. I'm very excited.
And I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see what's coming.
It's going to be good stuff. And at the end of the day, not everyone is going to have the same mindset.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to have the same aspirations, and that's okay. But my biggest word of advice, surround yourself with people. Never be the smartest person in the room, and surround yourself with people who want to grow in the way that you do. And it opens your eyes up to a whole new world.
100%.
I like it.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Stride Above. Now we are making the most of Hannah May, who is our vet student, and she has amazing questions that I am sure you have heard before. And this particular episode with Hannah May is for any new veterinarians, any vet student who is thinking about going to equine practice, or who started an equine practice and still not too far gone and want to actually get into the new generation of equine practitioners. All right, Hannah May, what questions do you have for me?
Well, I just wanted to ask about what is it like to be an equine practice who's on social media? Because a lot of equine practitioners don't want to touch social media, don't want to be on Instagram or Facebook, maybe Facebook, but especially not TikTok.
Yeah.
And you guys are on everything. So what is that like?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Let's go back to the roots of equine practice. And the roots of equine practice is farmers, very rural, very conservative. My dad and mom, they couldn't accept having their picture in my Facebook because they were so scared of social media. So that tradition of farm, rural, of privacy has been carried with us. At the beginning, I was scared. Let me tell you one time, my wife Katie, back when we were dating, she took a picture of me drunk. And it's pretty common knowledge. I used to have alcohol problems, and I got so pissed at her because she took a picture of me and she put it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And we were dating and we were students. I was like, how can you do that? You're gonna ruin my reputation. You're being awful. So after significant discussion, she took it off, right? Now, it was shame that I was drinking. It's a shameful thing. And what I was doing was shameful. I was very embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I didn't want people to find that out. Now, if I have nothing to hide, what do I need to hide?
Exactly.
And in my case, in my particular case, I was afraid because I was ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
So I had to go to some personal rediscoveries. And if someone finds that picture and brings it into the social media right now, I'm clean. I did it. I'm sorry. I remade my life.
Yeah.
And they can go, yeah, they can go and find a lot of pictures of me that I'm ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
But I am secure of myself. So I don't care what they find, because my family, my friends, and everybody knows my background and know what I went through. So that's one reason. Another reason is that we are so passionate about horses that someone is going to have a different opinion about you. And someone is going to attack you for your opinion. And someone's going to be a hater, because there's a lot of social media haters. And what I tell you is, if you don't have haters, you're really not doing enough.
Right.
Go find some haters. Because when you are having haters, that means that someone cares about what you're doing. And someone got tickled about what you did. Someone got tickled about what you say. And it affected them in some way. That's a real good reason to understand, hey, maybe I did something right.
Yeah.
A lot of us, a lot of equine vets, we are a little introvert, maybe. And sometimes we care too much about what other people say. And we care a lot about what they might find out, perhaps because we're so introverted. So in our case, we don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're in social media. Also, I also understand the value of social media. If it's not because of social media, I probably would not have you here.
I wouldn't be here.
Right? And we would not be able to spread the message to all these younger veterinarians and young vet students on how we want them and how awesome it is, because all they might hear is how awful it is to be an equine vet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an awesome medium to reach many people and be able to express ourselves.
Exactly.
So my advice is, don't be afraid of social media. And if someone attacks you, it's okay. By the way, I have been attacked endless time. But not just attack. Some people have called clients of mine just trying to disrupt my reputation. And those same people, those same practices, are totally 100% modeling our social media now.
Mm-hmm.
They are doing the exact same thing. They have the same colors of their shirts. They change everything to model what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool?
You're a success story. I mean,
It's awesome.
yeah.
And all those people that criticize us so much, now they became followers.
Mm-hmm.
What would have happened if I would have stopped? Then neither us benefit, neither they benefit, because now they benefit too. So we sort of help them out.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
So no one would have benefited. And remember something. Social media is relatively new. And everything that's new is going to be attacked by some people.
Right.
Now we have two options. Either we focus on the 80% of the good people that don't attack, or we just shrink and contract and we focus on the 20 that don't want us to progress and be good.
Yeah. Well, there's that old saying that all press is good press.
That's right.
So
Otherwise, the Kardashians wouldn't be that popular.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. It would take a lot of confront for some vets, and the older vets, it's gonna be tougher for them. And of course, they see it from their perspective. They see it from an old school type of thing. Now that's all gonna go away. What we need to make sure is that we have enough young vets to actually take their place and improve the profession. That's what we need to make sure of.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I think being present on social media helps so much, is inspiring future horse doctors and making other people passionate about a profession that potentially they might not have even considered if they hadn't seen you on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'll just scroll past and say, oh, that's really cool that he's doing there. Maybe I want to do that.
Yes. Yeah, very, very, very important. I highly encourage any veterinarian to have a social media presence and have a decent educational social media as well. There's a good balance, right, between entertainment, we have to entertain, and education. Very, very important to do that.
How has social media shifted your practice? Because I mean, you've been practicing for some time. I know that you've worked it into your clinic. How has it influenced how you operate?
Great, she called me old. That's okay. I can take it.
I did.
Very easy. I used to be very frustrated with Dr. Google. Very frustrated. Oh, I read this on the internet. I read that on the internet. So what did I do? I created an extensive, massive library. I was showing to Amanda today things that she hasn't even seen after 2 years with being with me every day. I have so much content which you can use, you can refer to, or other clinics. And one of the things that we're doing now is that we are starting to license that content so the vets can actually use it through us. They don't have to create it. They can use our content, make it their content, because it's evidence-based medicine, right? It's sound. We also have non-evidence-based medicine, don't get me wrong. We also do research in our clinic. So we tell the client, okay, this is evidence-based medicine. This is the content. This is the evidence. This is not evidence. These are clinical impressions. We're doing research on this. We'll keep you posted, right? So we tell them, and we are very transparent with that. And by doing that, now Dr. Google is me.
Right.
So they read our content, and if they want to confirm, then they go to our references, or they call their vet. But that's why I did it, and that's how I do it. I put a lot of content.
I love that, shifting the perspective. So instead of getting information from God knows where on the internet, you can get it from a reliable source, and then you have your sources right there.
Yeah, because another thing to remember is that a lot of a veterinarian in South Africa is going to have good content. It just might be not what we see in this particular area. So his content is probably going to be good. A veterinarian in the Dakotas, in California, is going to have content. It might just not be the same thing that we need here. So it needs to be also relevant for the area.
Right.
Especially with topics like infectious diseases and
definitely.
quarantines and colics, right? The colics here are completely different than the colic in Minnesota
Right.
or Alaska.
Definitely.
So the content is relevant to our area.
I love that. That's an awesome resource that you provide them.
Yeah.
Where else can people find those resources, or like, do you have also tips on how to provide those resources? I know they can use you.
Exactly. What we started now is something really cool. Is we started an advisor group where we teach young veterinarians how to start their clinic or how to start their practice, how to get a team, how to get content, how to get human resources, how to deal with employees, how to hire employees, how to create the life they want. So that is a service that after 15 years of struggling, well, after 10 years of struggling, 5 years of doing it right, now we are like, okay, we're going to start passing this along. And we believe that that is going to be how we are going to help veterinary medicine, by helping young veterinarians create the life they want by helping them with their business.
So where can graduating students access that kind of information?
So what they need to get in touch with us. Actually, they get in touch with Amanda. They get in touch with Amanda. Our phone number has been the same for many, many years, 352-307-3690. 352-307-3690. They tell me I'm a young vet, who want to do X. And Amanda handles all that very well. We have young vets that come from all over the country, Egypt, South America, Mexico, United States. We have young vets from absolutely all over the world that come and either we start a mentorship program, or what we're doing now is start the business program. And in the future, what we want to do is we want to start some partnerships, right? Because if we have figured it out and we can collaborate, then now all that knowledge for 15 years, I can pass it to you in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
How cool would that be?
Amazing.
Right? And then after that we go and we open practices. And then now we are really improving the veterinary medicine and get you a life. Now, I waited until I was 40 years old to have a month vacation. Now, 2 years, 3 years after school, boom, you go and take your 3-week vacation. You're having the life you want because we're collaborating.
That sounds so beyond my wildest dreams.
Yeah, and it's the way it is.
But it's doable.
It's doable. It's what we have been doing. It's what we have figured out.
I love it.
Of course, you need to have your commitment, your competencies, and the desire to do good.
Right. Exactly. What other advice do you have for any clinics that are on social media, or how else can they navigate being present?
I think it's important to be in multiple channels. We are on Instagram, like you say, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, and we're on TikTok. And every channel has kind of their own culture on their own. I think that if we put some of our stuff from TikTok, we put it on Facebook, it might not go well. Mm-hmm. And for sure, if I put what's on TikTok on LinkedIn, it's gonna go awful.
Yep.
Right? So good understanding of the social media. And this is when having a person that understands, a person in your team that understands that. Honestly, I just do what Amanda tells me to do. I don't really know what to do, where to post, where to go. That's another advice. Get a team. Mm-hmm. Get a team that can handle that. Because as veterinarian, we're not experts in social media. We're not experts. I'm not trying to be. I just know it's needed. Mm-hmm. And then I get a team member who can do it.
So finding someone who can adequately
100%.
represent you and knows the platforms, knows how to work with them.
100%. I cannot imagine me trying to do all the social media thing.
Yeah. It can be a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening to Stride Above. Thank you again for having you with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Hello, my name is Alberto Rujan with Performance Equine Veterinary Services, and I am extremely happy to be here and introduce you Dr. Colton Ramstrong. Dr. Colton was recently hired by Performance Equine Veterinary Services, and we are very excited to bring him all the way from California to help us with his expertise in lameness. Dr. Colton, thank you so much for being here with us, and we're really excited to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, and I'm very excited to be here.
So what I want today is I want you to talk to our audience about who you are, how you came up to be who you are right now. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Perfect. Yeah. So as Dr. Alon was saying, I'm from Northern California, kind of the rural area up there, not what everybody thinks about when they think of California. But yeah, I grew up on a ranch with my dad, and when I was in my early teens, a cutting horse trainer started operating out of his facility, and that was my main introduction into horses. Started working for him as a groom, cleaning stalls, washing, tacking, all that sort of stuff, and just really became enamored with the whole equine lifestyle. And then, yeah, as my studies continued, started taking more and more biology classes and found that I was very interested in that. And those two interests kind of just melded together and sent me on my path to veterinary school. And now here we are.
That's awesome. So you went to vet school at UC Davis and very early age. So that means that you're relatively smart, graduated young, and then went and did an internship. And tell us about your experience there.
Correct. Yeah. So I went to a private practice, sports medicine, lameness, and did a year-long internship there. Very busy private practice. Got a lot of really good experience. Got to learn under some really good mentors there, and took a lot of their experience and was able to capitalize on that. Following that internship, I got hired on as an associate there, and I spent a year working there as an associate. And again, just got to see and help and work with a lot of great horses and a lot of great horse people. Really, really enjoyed those experiences. Yeah.
How come Florida?
Florida, excellent question. Definitely, if you asked me a year ago if I was going to be living in Florida today, I would have said no. But my girlfriend is also a veterinarian. She got into a surgical residency at University of Florida, and yeah, that opportunity led me to start looking around here, and I was lucky enough to get connected with Dr. Alon and Performance Equine, and everything just worked out great.
Awesome. Well, we are very excited. We are ready to conquer with you. And if any of you have any questions, comments for Dr. Colton, please email us, text us, write us a comment, and we will get to you. We are looking forward for him helping your horses and helping our practice also with the high level of medicine that he brings to us. So we are extremely excited. You're going to enjoy him.
Looking forward to meeting all you lovely people and your horses.
What, you want to test it? I kept it short just in case. Till we break grounds. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, cut, go. Welcome to another episode of Stride Above. Today I am extremely excited. Did I tell you extremely excited yet? Because I have Elle Woolley with us. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. I followed it for a little while. I'm super excited to be a part of it.
I deeply appreciate it. I know you're extremely busy, and I'm honored that you are here with me. So why is Elle here? Well, Elle is here because Elle is a wonderful person, and I wanted to interview Elle because I want to bring you, our audience, I want to bring you people that are very remarkable and that I appreciate and that I think that you and me can learn from. And that's why you're here.
Big shoes to fill. We'll see if I can do it.
Absolutely. Well, one of the series that we have been doing is in the equestrian community, whether it's for veterinarians, for veterinary technicians, for riders, for grooms, for veterinary assistants. We are working on giving them a series on concept of barriers. How important is not to give up? And we're not going to give up yet. We're not going to give your latest accomplishment yet. So let's wait till the end for that. But I want you to give us a little story about yourself first and how you became the person that you are, which is a fantastic equestrian with fantastic accomplishments.
Okay, so it's a really very long story, but I grew up in northern Maine and I started riding as a child. When I was 11 years old, I had a terrible aneurysm, a brain aneurysm that made me paralyzed on my left side. And I couldn't walk for a while, and I still to this day have no use of my left arm. I think that's where it really all started. I mean, I think that I have this inner drive inside myself that just pushes myself to be the best in whatever I do. I started with that, but after becoming paralyzed, I mean, I just had to work double hard than anybody else to get anywhere that I wanted to be. I had a physical therapist that told my parents I should start riding again if I wanted to become more able and regain my ability to walk and things like this. So it helped that I had the equestrian background. And riding really gave me back a sense of purpose and a sense of, you know, something that I wanted to go after in life and stuff like this. So really, horses saved my life in a sense. And it's for that reason, horses like gave me a reason to never give up and always push harder.
Awesome. So, as an 11-year-old, you had a brain aneurysm. That must have been obviously life-changing.
That was terrible. It was just so hard. I grew up as a very athletic child. I was in all kinds of sports, and I was really at the top of my game in all the different sports, dancing and gymnastics, karate, anything athletic. I excelled at immediately, and not to mention riding as well. And then, you know, it was all taken away from me in one day. And to adjust to that and to adapt, I mean, it took me a lot of years to sort of come to terms with it and be okay with it. And I still struggle with that now. Like, I don't want to be partially paralyzed, but I mean, I'm also not going to focus on that because then I'd just be depressed.
Yeah. There's so many directions that we can go, and you told me I could ask you anything, right?
Yeah.
So we can go in many directions, but let's start with, when did you believe that you could accomplish all these barriers and become the person you are?
That's a really good question. I still struggle with that belief now, and I think that's a good thing to make people aware of. It's never going to be just like one moment where you go, aha, now I'm going to believe in myself 100%. No, I still have a lot of doubts, and I think a lot of high level, highly cognitive, highly accomplished people struggle with that inside. And you have to wake up every day and make the choice to like, are we going to do this or are we not? Whether you believe it or not, but like, you have to try. And I think that's at the core of it, is really the ability to have the courage to try, even in your deepest, darkest moments, even when you're doubting yourself.
Wow, that's very powerful. That's powerful because that a lot of people tell you that, but we know that you really live it, and it means a lot. It's a lot different coming from you, because it goes so well with your story and how you're able to go on and succeed every day. Now, how important it was for you, that physical therapist that told you and your mom, hey, she should go back and ride again. I didn't know about this, but as soon as you mentioned it, caught my eye, because how many times we need a little hand, we need someone to just pushes a little bit. How important was that, and how did that affect the rest of your life?
I mean, really that changed everything. At that time, I was very immobile, and I, really didn't have a whole lot of independence. I had to walk with a cane or in a wheelchair all the time. Like I couldn't get around very well. And so my parents, rightfully so, were concerned about me getting on a horse again because it is already risky, and then we have no balance now, so it was just that much more of a risk, really. But my mom is a lifelong equestrian, and so she was like, you know what? She saw a glimmer of hope in me at that point, and she was like, well, we have to try this because this kid needs something to live for and to get out of bed for. And yeah, it altered my life completely, because after that, then, at first I started equitherapy, and had like assisted riding and stuff, and handlers on the ground that would hold me on the horse and things like that. But I hated it because I used to be really good at it, right? Like I used to be a decent, like I would jump things. I was always given the problem horses because I could stick them. So then having to be in a handicapped capacity where I was having all this kind of help externally didn't feel right. So I just started saying, no, I don't want to do this. Like I'm going to ride able-bodied. Like I'm going to ride the way that I used to. And my mom, being who she is, she was like, all right, we're going to try this. And man, I fell off left and right. I fell off so much. I was breaking bones. I was like, whatever, but I didn't care. And eventually that was kind of like the catalyst, my decision to not want to have to be like assisted all the time and given so much help. I wanted to do this on my own. I really wanted to accomplish it, and no one was going to figure it out for me. I had to figure that out for myself.
Wow. And around what age did that happen? Since the accident, since the aneurysm?
Yeah, that was right after. I mean, I was 13 when my mom got me my first horse after the accident. So it was not too long. I might have had a year to come back and be out of the saddle, but that was about it.
That's awesome. So right away after your life-changing event, and you mentioned something very interesting here that we talk about a lot in our podcast, you went to work double hard. Right away, went to work double hard, transitioned into your new life, embraced it, and kept going.
Yes and no. I wouldn't quite say that. I, was still struggling with depression and being accepted from my peers. I had a lot of bullying at the time. I didn't have a very happy school life. But at the same time, I could really turn to the horses and feel accepted and feel at home, and sort of gain a sense of self again through that. So I was very blessed to have my mom have that part of my life. It was just sort of normal for me to be around, and that's where I felt better again.
Thank you for sharing that. Were there any moment that anyone that you care for you, were against you going back into horses and progressing your life?
No.
Awesome.
No. My whole family is so wonderful. I couldn't be who I am or where I am without them. Today, my parents divorced when I was little, but both parents stayed in my life equally. So they shared custody equally, and my dad, he's not such a horse person as my mom is, but I mean, he's more involved in it now, which is great. But no, from both sides, my whole extended family, everyone, they were like, go get it, go do it, Elle. And like, I was really fortunate to have that support system behind me.
That is so key, right? When everybody's aligned towards the same goals, it makes things possible, right? And that is so cool, because you just told me you went through bullying, you went through depression. If your whole family wouldn't be aligned, that would have been a whole different ballgame, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was, middle school and high school is hard for any young person. It's a really hard time in young adults' lives. And then to be so drastically different than your peers and in such a health struggle. I mean, children tend to be afraid of what they don't know, right? So there was a lot of that going on. But my family is really what got me through, my parents and my brother.
Awesome. Well, for this particular episode, all I want you to do now is I want you to give a message to these people that have a bad day, and they have 2 bad days, or they have 3, 4, 5, maybe they have 10 bad days, and they want to quit. They want to quit a goal, they want to quit their family, they want to quit whatever they're going through. If there's any message that you can give them to motivate them, help them, to see, hey, what's going on?
So, you might not like what I have to say.
Bring it.
This is coming from a personal perspective because this is me, right? Like, I have lots of bad days in a row pretty often. You'd be surprised. Like, I work really hard and I enjoy what I do and stuff, but I really struggle to get that motivation to keep going, especially when you hit a barrier. You're so close to something and then it fails and you're like, I just want to lay down and give up. Nobody's going to come to save you.
That's right.
You have to find it within yourself, and you have to make the decision to be better, to become bigger than what you're going through, to get to that next level. And nobody likes to say that because it sounds very mean and it sounds harsh and incompassionate, but that's not the case. It's just the truth. It's like no one is coming to save you.
It would sound mean if I say it, but if you say it,
and I mean it genuinely.
I don't think it would sound mean.
I feel bad. I hate that. Like, I'm so compassionate for friends and for people that are going through hard times. 100%, I feel that with my heart. But it's only you. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's only you that can get to that point and decide to get yourself back on track.
Thank you so much for that advice. I'm sure that you have changed lives today. And people that are looking at us and listening to our podcast are definitely touched and motivated. Thank you so much for being with us, El Bully. Stay tuned because we have many episodes with her. Thank you so much for being with us at Stride Above.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Hello, this is Dr. Alberto Rujan, and today I am with Dr. Colton Ramstrong from Performance Equine Veterinary Services. Thank you very much for coming with us.
Thank you for having me.
What I want to talk today is I want to interview Dr. Colton on the importance of mentorship on your early career. How important it is. You know, today there's a lot of noise in the veterinary career. Coming out of vet school with a lot of student debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sometimes we just come out of vet school and we don't know what we're gonna do, and if we do it, we don't know if we're doing it right or we're doing it wrong, and we really want to have a good mentorship program. Since you have such an extremely good mentorship program and created the great veterinarian that you are, how did that go? Tell us a little bit about that. We wanna address our young interns, externs, and anybody who wants to get into veterinary medicine.
Absolutely. Yeah, so mentorship, both before and after veterinary school, I think are very important. Before veterinary school, obviously, to get a good idea of what the profession is actually like and what, the day-to-day life of an equine veterinarian looks like, to determine whether or not it's the right field for you. And then in addition to that, coming out of veterinary school, you have a great foundation of knowledge. but you don't necessarily know how to apply all that knowledge in practice in the field with your patients when you're the one who's managing each individual case, and it's your decision. You're in charge of what we're doing. So I think that having the opportunity to find somebody who can help you make that transition from, you know, the really good kind of foundational education to the actual the clinical practice and being able to make those decisions and make the right decisions sometimes in difficult circumstances is extremely important and extremely beneficial to helping young veterinarians become successful and being able to establish their career, work for a long time in the profession, and you know, deal with some of those complications of you know, high student debt burden that Dr. Ulan was talking about here. I was very fortunate in that I was able to find a great mentorship, which actually started before I went to veterinary school. I started working with a sports medicine specialist. He was extremely knowledgeable, and I was able to work with him throughout vet school as well as after vet school and do an internship with him, and then eventually work under him as an associate. And so that through that relationship, I got to use his decades of clinical experience to help really kind of slingshot my education and push me forward to the place where I am now.
So when I was in college, after 4 years of college, every summer I was with a sports medicine veterinarian at the racetrack or anywhere I could find experience. And then during veterinary school as well. Now, our friends remember telling me, hey, why are you doing that? You have a 4-year degree and you are almost working for nothing. Why are you doing that? Can you explain us the economics of it? Like how do you make sense in the long run to do internships, which, let's face it, they are lower paid jobs, even though you have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, sometimes a doctorate degree, in order to create competence that can eventually maybe pay off. Can you tell us your take on that?
Absolutely. No, those are all great points. The short-term economics, you might look at it and say, yes, you are making significantly less as an extern or as an intern, which is absolutely true. Long-term, though, the education and the experience that you get from that is going to set you apart from your peers so much, make you significantly more competitive, and just make you a better veterinarian in general. The clients are going to see that. Your results with your patients are going to show that, and that in and of itself is just going to compound as a return.
And I can tell you, in your case, it paid off extremely well because you actually have been climbing into the associate ladder quite fast because your competence at what you do is so good, right? So how much effort did you put on learning your craft, on reading those radiographs, on getting the ultrasounds get ready, on practicing? How was that for you as a student, as an intern?
Yeah, both as a student in undergraduate, as a student and an extern throughout veterinary school, and then, you know, I still consider myself a student today. I'm always looking to learn new things, learn from people who have more experience than me, like Dr. Ulan, and it's not something that you start and then you reach an end point and you say, okay, we're here, we know what we need to know. It's you're constantly working on that craft and putting the effort in, and it's something that might seem insurmountable at some stages of your education or your career, but you just have passion for it, keep showing up every day, putting the effort in, and it'll work. It'll work if you work.
Very nice. And one last point. Do you think you would be where you are today if you would have not done an internship and a mentorship program before?
No, honest answer would be no. I think the level of clinical experience that you can glean from a good mentor is absolutely invaluable.
if I had to just kind of take a guess, I'd say it's, me practicing for 3 years would give me the comparable level of experience that I got in my 1 year of internship. So you really do get to push yourself that next step and get a lot out of those educational experiences.
Awesome. And something else that you mentioned that I think is extremely important, you still consider yourself a student. And I see that sometimes veterinarians kind of stop the learning curve, stop developing themselves, and they can get a little bit of in the rut, and also a little bit unhappy because they don't continue with that thirst of knowledge. That's very important, and I like that. If you study most of the successful people in the world, they say they never stop learning, they never stop practicing, never stop fulfilling themselves with knowledge. And what that does is it brings them to then innovation, and then they can start doing new things. That's a great point. Well, thank you very much for your insight. We really appreciate it. If you are a veterinary student, an intern, or a recent graduate, please consider a mentorship or an internship program to take you to the next level. If you want to hear about ours, you can go and visit our page, which is www.performanceequinevs.com. Email us or text us however you can, and we'll give you all the information you need. Thank you. Then we have a In this video, you can see a 1-year-old thoroughbred horse with a significant lameness of the right front. We call this a 4 out of 5 lameness. We can also see a prominent shoulder point. You can also see a significant shortening in the cranial face of the stride of the right front. This prompts us to radiograph the shoulder. Commonly, we have shoulder muscles atrophy when this is happening, and in this case you can see a fracture of the supraglenoid tubercle of the right shoulder, as seen here in the picture. In this picture you can see the normal left shoulder. You can see the ultrasound images, the right on the right and the left on the left, and you can see how different they are. We will not go into enough detail in this short video. Our treatment plan included anti-inflammatories, control exercise, and a rest plan. 7 months later, the horse continues to have a mild short cranial face of the stride and about a 2 out of 5 degree lameness on the right front. This horse went on to become a brood mare, and she had a very happy life. In this case, this horse was treated with conservative treatment rather than surgery, and it gave us the expected results.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of A Stride Above. We have hijacked the podcast and we're making it a girls episode. Dr. Lon had to run, so we decided that we're just going to take over and we're going to make the most of it. So with me, we still have Elle here with us, so I had to take advantage of having you here. And actually, after listening to your series, I found that you and I have a lot more in common than I knew. So something with both of us going through some hardships, some barriers that we had to go through growing up, it definitely molded us to who we are, and I think really fueled our motivation to do better. I know for me, I've always wanted to be known for working hard to get where I was, and I think it's almost become like an addiction for me of I don't want people to know me as, oh, she was the girl that had cerebral palsy, or like she got there because her family helped her, or anything like that. Like I've always wanted to be addicted to hard work to where people are like, she got there because she worked her butt off, and that has kind of been the way that I've coped through overcoming barriers and difficulties. And I'm curious kind of with you, I know we talked a little bit about in the other series, but like how do you cope with those barriers? Because it's so easy to just go, well, this happened to me and I'm just gonna sit here and just let it happen to me.
Yeah, so that's really beautiful that you said that, and thank you, because I think that people should be collectively more like you and like, you know, want to be known for their work ethic and to motivate themselves to do stuff. Having said that, I can't say that I have like this crazy, you know, motivated personality all the time. I definitely have to work at it, and it's something that I consistently work at and try to get better. I think one of the things that I use to alleviate stress and to feel better on a daily basis is just like laughter. I say inappropriate things, I do inappropriate things sometimes, like because it's funny, and like, yes. I don't know, I'm here for it, and I think that people need to laugh, and it's just such a release, and I don't know, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but I love making people laugh, and it just makes me feel so much better. So I joke about everything.
I love that. And it's so easy too. Like you have such high goals that you're trying to reach. I have very high goals that I'm trying to reach. And it's so easy to get tunnel vision and just like, okay, I need to get here and nothing else matters, and not enjoy the journey. And I think that's like what you said with laughter. It's so important to laugh and actually enjoy the journey. And it makes when you get to the goal so much better of like, wow, look what I did. I had fun doing it. I got to do it with other people. And if there's a few cuss words in the meantime, I mean, hey, got us through it.
Right? Exactly. It's like, yeah, the journey really is the most important part. And I think too, it's hard to see it when you're doing it. It feels like you're not getting anywhere, and it's like dragging your toes sometimes, and it's taking so long. And like, how do you just keep putting one foot in front of the other and staying so dogged and so determined? You know, but friends, family, anybody who, you know, likes to laugh with you, just cut up sometimes, because those are the moments that you end up remembering. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, remember that time that I almost made you wet your pants in the truck when we were driving somewhere crazy because I said this weird joke, and like, you know, you end up remembering that for the rest of your life. And I don't know, those times are really great to me.
I love that. And two, I think one of the things that was really hard for me, and now working with Dr. Roulon, he's opened my eyes up to a lot of things, and getting to meet you and like ask you a lot of questions too. I have talked about this on a previous episode too. Like I felt like in growing up, it was okay, you're going to grow up, you're going to get married, you're going to have a house, you're going to maybe have some kids, and like you did it. And it wasn't until like really sitting down, and we do something at our company called PPF, Personal, Professional, and Financial Goals, for year 1, 3, and 5. And Dr. Roulon presented it to me. He's like, all right, like I want you to go home and kind of work through this. At the time I was with my fiance, now husband, and I like brought it home, and I was like, but like I did it. Like I have a fiance, I'm gonna get married, I have a house, like what else is there, kind of thing. And I feel like too, similar to your story, like you have these goals that you accomplish something, and then you're striving for the next goal. How do you come up with your next goal, or like how do you come up with that next vision?
You know, that's a really good question. I feel like it's a little bit hard to answer. I feel like goals are so important to have, but sometimes you have that come down after you reach something, and then you feel like, well, what's there left to live for? And that's where you really do have to work on falling in love with the journey and with the process. And of course, with horses, that's never ending. I've never been a day with a horse where I didn't learn something new. So that's at the bottom of all of this, at the bottom of being a pro athlete and doing this sport that is so demanding and sometimes makes you want to just pull all your hair out and call it quits and whatever. I'm going to move to the Maldives and no one's ever going to hear from me again. But at the bottom of it is a really deep love for the animal, and I think you probably share that as well, working in Dr. Ulan's clinic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think finding your passion and then the goals just kind of come, because once you hit one, it almost becomes like a game of
It's
like,
inevitable.
can I push myself a little bit more? Like, okay, I did that, I think I did that. Well, what's the next step?
Yeah.
So I think that's really fun that we kind of share that in. You can do anything you set your mind to, and you have to think big to do it.
You really do, because what else, why are you going to go through the stress and the blood, sweat, and tears, literally, of all of it, unless it's like this burning passion? It's almost like my mom once said to me, if you can define the reason why you're doing it, the reason's not big enough.
Ooh,
And
I like that.
She said something along the lines, and it really stuck out to me, because I was like, I don't really know why I'm doing this, I just can't not.
Mm-hmm.
So, people are like, well, why do you do that? Why do you work so hard? Why do you do that? I'm like, I don't really know. Like, I can't tell you, but I just know that I can't not.
I love that you said that. So you and I also found out that we both are early morning risers and work out in the morning, and I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I work out, and so many people are like, I don't know how you do it. How do you do it? I can't afford not to, especially like with someone who's physically like has to work out and has to move in order to feel better. Yeah. Like I have to, but at the same time, like the person that I see myself as is a person who is physically fit, whether I had a disability or not. And like, if you can create that vision, create that end goal of yourself, and you see it, you can't afford not to do the daily things that you need to do to get there.
And things almost just like fall into line in front of you, because you have this like end vision. And, it's so easy to get sidetracked along the way and like fall off a little bit. And, I do it too. Oh, everybody does it, right? So, I mean, sorry, Jeff, I was supposed to wake up this morning and go see my trainer at 5 in the morning, and I slept through all 3 of my alarms because I'm dead after nationals. But, I'll get them next time. And, but it's once you have a really, really big goal, it's almost like the stairs show themselves to you.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, very important in that, like, there was a week or two ago that I didn't work out for like probably 10 days straight, and I beat myself up for it. And you have to show yourself grace sometimes.
You really do.
And I was wondering if you struggle with that too, because I can be so hard on myself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't go to the gym. My goals are never going to get reached.
And then you wallow, and then you're like, well, maybe I should eat that pint of ice cream, because now, I already feel like dirt, so I'm going to like pile it on. I've gotten better with that as I've matured a little bit. But yeah, as I've grown up, it is still something that I'm working on, but showing yourself grace in those moments and being like, we're only human. Things happen, life comes up, what things that we don't expect, or you just need a rest, dude. Life is tiring, and that's okay. And I feel like, especially for type A athlete type of personalities, it's really, really hard, because we're just so go get them and like all the time, and it's exhausting. And we have to allow ourselves to have, I came back from nationals and I stayed in bed all day, and I was like, this time I didn't feel too bad about that. I was like, you know what, I earned it.
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah, I totally downed a sleep with Oreos yesterday. It had to happen. Yeah, it had to happen. You need those days too.
Exactly, 100%. Life is made to enjoy, and like if you're too rigid about what you're doing, you lose the sense of spontaneity.
Absolutely. Something kind of a sidetrack off of that, something that you and I discussed prior to once we hit record, was growing up wanting to fit in, and now we're both on journeys to stand out. And I think that's very funny how it's kind of come like full circle, and I'd love to hear a little bit of your like perspective on what shifted you from one mindset to the next.
That's so interesting that you said that. It really just hit me too. Ever since I was born, pretty much, I've wanted to be famous. I was just kind of born that way. I really like want to be in the spotlight. I always have. I don't know exactly why. It's just kind of like who I am. And so, but you know, as I had my injury and stuff like that, and I was sticking out for reasons that I perceived as negative and things like that, I internalized a lot of that, and it is hard to kind of emerge from that space of despair and whatever you will call it. But yeah, now I want to stand out. It's like because I went through those things. It's like you have to get to a point of acceptance of how you were born and what happened to you and things like this. And I am still working on that. It is still hard for me. I still would have preferred to not have an aneurysm than to have one, of course. If I could wake up and not be paralyzed tomorrow, I'd jump all over that. I'd be super thrilled. But like, I'm not going to dwell on that because that's very depressing. It makes you super, super sad. And like, I really want to love life. I want to enjoy life and what time we have, because we never know how long we have, honestly. Like, I should have died at that time, and I'm very lucky that I didn't. So
I think that just the way that you said that, something that my mom told me growing up when I was having like really, really hard times. Because of course the bullying, we physically looked different. There was no hiding it for us, not making it any worse than obviously anyone else who didn't have it physically. But my mom always said, God gave it to you for a reason. He wouldn't have given it to you if you couldn't handle it, or if it wasn't supposed to sculpt you into the person that you are. And that was kind of what helped my mindset of, I was dealt these cards for a reason, let me figure out my purpose for them, or let me do something that is so much more impactful that they won't notice my disability because I'm doing this, which is so much more powerful. And I think that's kind of what helped me, was like, once I figured out, like, I want to help people. Like, that is my goal. I want to help others succeed, and that's gratifying to me. Okay, how can I do this in the biggest way so they can't tell that I'm walking funky because I'm doing this?
Yeah, I think, I hear a lot of myself and you when you say that. A similar sense of like being so impactful that your different ability won't sort of stick out anymore. But at the same time, I think there's something even beyond that I am still working on, is like radical self-acceptance. And I mean, I have to ride in a sling because I have spasticity in my arm, and it'll like, it kind of, I can't control it when I'm riding. And so I ride in an actual sling, and like, that was hard to get over for a while. I'm like, man, I'm covering up all my pretty buttons. Like, I don't even look like a dressage rider because I have this stupid thing on my arm. It's really annoying. But then I see some of the pictures sometimes, and I'm like, it's really, really beautiful. Like, it's badass. You know? And I'm like, look at, I'm there in a double bridle with this freaking sling on my arm. Like, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I think even going beyond like doing things that are so impressive that people won't notice is like loving yourself so much that it doesn't matter. Because this is just a vessel. Like
1,000, yep.
It's just a vessel, and you're inside, and it's like, how can you love yourself enough? Because you would never judge somebody else the way that you judge yourself. Insane.
Yeah, I've heard many people say, and I've seen it on Facebook and TikTok and all the things of, would you ever speak to someone else the way that you speak to yourself? And I never would dream of it. And it's like, well, why do you do it to yourself then? And it's so easy to, but I can resonate with that as like, the hardest part of my journey has been accepting that I am who I am, and that is okay, and to use it to teach others, because kids are very curious, and even as an adult, there's kids that come up to me and they're like, what's wrong with you? And it crumbles me. Like, it's so hard for me, and I have to remember, like, okay, I'm going to use this moment to teach them about what it is, so then if they see someone else, like, it's more normal. They know, like, because they're not doing it from a bad place, of course, but getting comfortable in myself. Like, to this day, there's times where people stare, and it just, it kills me inside. And I was like, dang, I was having a really good day today. I didn't feel like I was not normal today, and then that just, like, threw a wrench in it.
So I have a trick for that.
Ooh, please.
Next time you see somebody staring at you, it's because you're hot.
That's what we're gonna go with.
100%. I go with that, and I'm like, I'm gonna train more. Yeah, I know I'm hot. So, and those are little mindset shifts that can help you. and everyone, like, let them stare. Like, I'd stare at me too.
Take a picture.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's to be goofy, obviously, but like it does kind of help. And chances are, here's the thing that I've discovered is in this life is 9 times out of 10 they are looking at you because you're pretty, and it's not because you're walking weird and stuff. And like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but like, that's a, you know, I feel like that's a better way to look at it.
I like it. Do what we can to cope with it, because you never know. And you never know what the other person's thinking either. They could be looking at you like, wow, she's holding her head high because, you know, obviously she has, I mean, she's moving forward. But of course, us being so hard on herself, the first thing they're like, oh my gosh, why does she walk like that? She's so messed up.
And that's the little kid in you that like never really healed from it. And the same, I mean, I do that. And this is the human condition, right? We do that to ourselves. Like, we all think that people are thinking the worst of us. And most of the time they're not, because those people are thinking the worst about themselves.
Absolutely.
So I think the best thing that we can do is, you know, cry when you have to, smile at somebody who's staring at you, maybe give a cheeky little wink. I don't know, like, whatever.
I see you seeing me.
Right? Exactly. What? What are you going to do about it? And just try to, that's kind of like my playful side that helps with stuff. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to mess with somebody, because if they're going to stare at me like that, then I'm going to stare right back. And you just have to, I don't know, you just have to, like, I lost my train of thought.
No, but I love that. I think overall the biggest takeaways are know what your purpose is and what your passion is, because then you can figure out what your goals are. Once you have your goals, you can then, it's almost like a default when you have a decision or a barrier that comes your way. You're like, okay, I'm trying to go this way. Not 100% sure how. We're just gonna.
There you go. Got it.
Let's hope that's still working. Anyways, so once you have your goals, you have your path. When you have a decision or a barrier that comes your way, you're like, okay, if I go this way, I'm headed towards my goal. If I go this way, I'm not headed towards my goal. And it makes going through life a little bit less complicated, I feel like, if you have that set out and just keep moving in that direction and use humor along the way.
Yeah,
you have
100%.
to.
And first and foremost, laugh at yourself, because if you do it before anybody else does it, then you win the game.
1,000%. And I'll actually say I struggle with that to this day, and I'll give you an example from last weekend. We were at a barrel race, and so I have very bad balance. My brain doesn't really communicate to my legs, so you know it happens to the best of us. So my balance isn't great, and my mom was riding her horse, and we were there with our vet team, so a lot of our staff was there. And I had walked up to my mom just on the other side of the booth, and I was loving on the horse, and he was great, and I was great, and everything was great. And Mom and I were talking, and he turned and like nudged my shoulder, just like being playful. I almost fell over in front of all of our staff members, and I was mortified. Like, this was a week ago, and I'm still thinking about it in my head of like, oh my gosh, I almost fell over. They saw me almost fall over. I guarantee none of them have thought twice about it. But in my brain, because I am so hard on myself, and so I think it's important to know, like, it's okay to work through it, and like, just every day a little bit more, because it's still going to happen, it's still going to come out, but it's how you move forward. And I keep telling myself, like, it's fine, like, you're a human, you can trip, it's normal. But it's so easy to default to
like beating yourself up and stuff. No, I can totally relate to that 100%. My left foot I have foot drop, and so I trip on it all the time. And knock wood, it's been a little while since I've bit the dust or knocked over, from that, but it's been known to happen. And I get really pissed off when that happens. I get so mad, like 0 to 60 in 3.5. But I think I've gotten better at just like brushing it off. It's not that big of a deal, like it is to us, but like you just said, no one's gonna think about that the next day. Like, they don't care, they let it go. And so I think that's the game of life, is like, you have to have things that you dearly, dearly want and you're working hard towards, but you have to let things go at the same time. So Because if you keep hanging on to everything, like, it's harder and harder and harder to move forward.
Yep. I love that. Then we're creating our own barriers, and then we're just walking in backwards.
Exactly.
And we can't
Oh
do
my
that
God,
very well
don't drag me
either.
down. Let me go. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Well, I'm really glad that you and I got to hijack this. I'm sure Dr.
Me
Rolando will
too.
enjoy it when he gets to listen to it when everyone
Exactly.
else does. I'm just
Yeah,
going to
totally.
sneak it in there for him.
Like, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, here we released 2 episodes this week.
That's awesome. I love it.
But thank you so much for being with us. I'm glad that you and I got to make this connection as well.
Me too.
And get a glass of wine sometime, I'm sure.
Heck yeah.
All the cuss
definitely.
words, all the coping,
Oh,
all
I
the
got
goal
stories
making.
for you, girl.
I love it. And thank you guys again for tuning in for another episode. We hope you guys enjoy these little spur of the moment additions to the podcast. And we will see you guys soon.
Thank you lots.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Stride Above. I'm still being interviewed by Hannah May, our favorite vet student here at our studios.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Hannah. It's been a lot of fun. So let's keep demystifying equine veterinary medicine.
Yeah, so I have a question that I receive a lot. Is just how do you feel? How do you keep saying, "Oh my gosh"? Are there times that you ever feel inadequate? Or there's this whole illusion that people in the horse industry always know what they're doing, and you're completely competent. You can do anything, and a lot of people feel like they're inadequate. They're not competent enough to be in this industry. So, like, do you ever feel that way? Or
Absolutely.
what advice do you have?
Absolutely, 100%. When I first came, when I came out of my country to the United States, I almost do not pursue my dream career because of that.
Really?
Yes. I grew up on a farm. I knew I was going to be a vet ever since my horse died. And I knew I was going to be a lameness vet ever since my horse couldn't be recovered from hog fractures. And I dedicated all my life to trying to go to vet school and become a veterinarian. But where I came from a farm background. And one thing that farming has in common is that when you're raised in a farm as a kid, it's a very unique life. Super nice, very nice, awesome life, but it's very unique. You listen to your parents, you do what your parents tell you to do. You get up every morning, you feed the horses, you feed the cows, you go to school, you come back, you go back to the farm, you do your farm chores, you go to bed. And you do that with your family, you do that with your brother, and you do that with the farm workers. So it's a very close niche. And then you do that every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do it on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Sunday you go to the farmer's market to sell your oranges or go to sell your bananas, right? And that develops a sense of, I wouldn't say loneliness, but it's a comfortable sense of not having to be around a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely develops a sense of not wanting to be around a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Shameful for me, I used to say that my favorite person to be with was myself.
Really?
I was the shyest person in the whole planet. And I discovered that the culture that I needed to be in was not like that. And not just that, now I have to learn a new language. I did not know English. There's no vet schools in my country.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to come and play the game in someone else's court
Mm-hmm.
with their rules. And now I'm being judged for being a minority, for not knowing the language. Because back in the days, now it's cool to be Latin, it's cool to be black, it's cool to be Latin, it's cool to be diverse. But back in the days when I was, it was not cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely not cool to not speak the language, and it was definitely not cool to have a different skin color. So that felt like crap. And I had to somehow buckle up and think about my goals. Think about, okay, what do I want to do? All right, what's my mission? My mission is to help horses. What's my vision? My vision is to help tons of horses. And with that in mind, then I started seeing people for what they were. They were trying to intimidate me, but in reality, they were insecure themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered that all these people that are trying to show off a facade, a persona, the more they're trying to impress me, the less they know.
Mm-hmm.
Now I figure out one thing. I figure out that if I knew my craft very well, if I became very, very knowledgeable, they would actually realize that I knew more than them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, now I discovered that most people want to be good. And they were not doing that on purpose. They were not really bullying me on purpose. I mean, maybe somewhere, all right? Maybe some people were bullying me, but they were the minority.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to I just have to buckle up with the people that were bullying me. But when I really discovered that they were just insecure of themselves, then I said, wait a minute, I can help these people. And I became their tutor.
Really?
I find out what strengths I had that they didn't have it. For example, I was really, really good at math, and I was really, really good at chemistry. Everybody hated organic chemistry. Well, I went and tutored them.
Wow.
And then they said, okay, this guy's different, but he can help us.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I start seeing them, the whole people, the intimidation goes away. Because now I'm getting security.
Mm-hmm.
I realize, okay, they are just a little bit insecure. And they're good people. And I can help them.
Yeah.
And very quickly I started turning people around. And I became, we became more, more like a community.
Yeah.
Became more friends. Now, I think that in summary, dealing with the intimidation that I was feeling, I had to be also secure of myself. And the only way that I was secure of myself is because when I knew I was playing in someone else's court, and I wanted to beat the team in their court.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot play a game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, and that was very, very important for me, to play a game, because I was being miserable. If I kept going at that step, I was going to walk away from the equine industry.
Really?
Yeah. I even had an interview because I was really good with cows too. I even had 2 interviews in Texas because I was going to be a cow vet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to do this. This is ridiculous. This industry is awful. I don't want to deal with it. But then I figured it out.
Okay.
And the intimidation is not real. The intimidation is totally a facade. And yes, there are some people, just like in any other business, that are going to try to step on you. But no one steps on knowledge.
Right.
It's impossible to step on knowledge. So me as a triple minority, because I was a minority everywhere I go, I was able to have success based on my knowledge, and then understanding that most people are good. People are people. And then now I work for some of the wealthiest people in the whole world, and they're people.
Yeah.
They're just people.
Yeah.
We cannot forget that people are people.
So what advice do you have for people who are feeling like how you felt? Like how can they use like what you're talking about to keep going and keep motivating themselves?
I love that. Lean into the insecurity. Lean into what makes you uncomfortable. There's some mentors of ours that say, if you feel uncomfortable, that's probably a good thing. Lean into it. Figure out how to do it. Because the faster you do it, the faster you realize it's not going to kill me. There's nothing that is going to kill you. And let's face it. What is the worst thing that can happen? That someone tells you no? Then play another game. Right. How many no's can you get that day? Let's find out how many people can tell me no. And that's a game that a mentor of ours teach us. Let's find how many no's you can get that day. Just make it a game.
Really?
Make the game out of it. And you're eventually going to start getting into it. And then obviously I always recommend invest in yourself.
Right.
Because the more secure you are about yourself and about what you know, the more relaxed you can be.
Right.
I have two sons. One is 10, the other one is 12. And the 10-year-old is always being bossed around by my 12-year-old. Right? Always. The 12-year-old is always, he knows better. He knows better. The 10-year-old sometimes knows so much that he gets so relaxed. He looks at him and says, okay, no problem. And he just let him be. He doesn't get in fight with him. And I learned a lot from Michael and William because he just said, okay, no problem. He just doesn't fight it and move on. Because he's taking that conversation for what it is. It's just a person talking.
Right.
So the words are very powerful, but they're as powerful as you let them be.
Right. Yeah. I think you can apply that anywhere. Because I mean, talking with clients or other professionals, I think it's always a good idea to listen to anyone's perspective. And if you don't agree, or if you have a different knowledge base like your son, say, okay, move on.
Move on. You just give them an acknowledgement. And one thing that I have developed also with the years is that I always try to see the world from their perspective.
Right.
I really try to put myself in their shoes. If it's a client that's all pissed off, all upset, well, why is that client upset? There could be two reasons. One, something's going on really bad in their personal life, or that horse is like their son and they're so stressed out that they cannot think straight. But he's not mad at me. He's mad at either himself or someone else. He's mad at an uncontrolled situation, something that I have no control over. So how can I help him?
Right.
I acknowledge, yes, I understand. I'm going to help you out.
I think that's such a big piece of it, is disconnecting yourself from the problem.
Yes. It's not necessarily your problem. Maybe you caused a problem. Maybe you did. But after so much education, after so much experience, very small amount of time you caused the problem. Most of the time there's something else going on. And you need to find out how to not trigger it to make it worse.
Right.
How to actually acknowledge it, understand it. Okay.
Exactly. Move on.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then also disconnecting yourself from the issue and realizing, can you do anything to fix whatever is going on? And if the answer is no, why are you letting it get to you? Like if you're taking that baggage home with you after the end of the day, should you be worried about something? Maybe, but if there's nothing you can do to fix it. That's
something that I struggle with it myself, right? Sometimes I tell clients, hey, I was thinking about you at 2 a.m. free of charge. because we do.
Exactly.
And that's something that I have learned to deal with it. Like if I have a case I cannot figure out, and I'm having trouble with it, there's always gonna be those type of cases. And what you need to do is realize that it happens. And what I have found out with those cases is that I go tackle it. Because going home to bed looking at the ceiling without doing anything about it kind of gets me worse.
Exactly.
So I tackle it, or I figure out how to tackle it. And then I make sure that there's absolutely nothing that I can do about it. And if there's nothing I can do about it, then now I'm at peace.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing I can do about it.
Exactly.
But I do everything possible.
Yeah, I think I had a coach when I was younger in high school who said, did you give it your all? If the answer is yes, then you gave it your all.
Yeah, love it. That was a great episode. Make sure you always give it your all. Find out what you're doing today. Whatever you're doing today, think about it. Did you do your best? Your absolute best? And if you didn't, go do some more. Thank you so much to another episode of Stride Above. Thank you, Anne-May. That was great.
Thank you for having me.